What is that? Get the rest of them. I bet it's some more toys in them boxes. I bet it's some more toys. What is that?
Mom's got another one. Go see what's in there.
Look, they wonder what Mom was gone. There's the key. Oh,
My goodness, look what that baby egg jar.
He's squealing like a little one. I got some shorts and t-shirts.
Huh?
Yeah, I needed some shorts too. Now I guess this is my t-shirts and these. What you got, Jay? Look at that, what Mama got.
I'm proud of her. Oh, she's playing on.
Some more shorts and t-shirts. Mama got this V-neck line.
Well, so it won't show. I got that on. Wear the dress shirt so they won't show it.
That is all right when you wear your dress shirt or something sports.
That's what I got today.
Where's Jill?
It sure is. It's like. One day you pick all that stuff up. It's right down there. It's got a key and a little book. What that baby got. Bubba?
Who was on there, Bubba?
Who's
Who was on that? Honey?
Who's there?
Turn your papa on.
Turn Papa on. Well, you talk. Come on. Who was that talking, Margo?
What's Paris toy?
That was James. When you were a little baby.
Turn your top.
It's all gone.
Turn your first.
Listen,
We'll listen to it in a minute.
where we going this weekend? Where we going?
They turn your red bubble talk.
We will in a minute, Bubba.
They turn your seal.
Is that where you turn it on?
Listen.
How do you know that's where you turn it on? Say, 'cause I seen Daddy.
They turn your up there.
Listen, James.
What do you think that is?
What we gonna do up on Deer Leaf?
Say, hello, everybody. Say that.
Hello.
They talk right into it. Say, how you doing?
Is that Miss Judy you talking
Say,
to?
how you doing?
Hello.
Pretty good. Say, doing pretty good.
They turn your.
Talk right in there.
Talk right into that.
Talk right into the telephone, man.
Take the telephone. Talk right into it.
Hello, Bubba. Hello, Bubba Mimo.
Doing pretty good?
I play good.
What you doing?
Who did you call on the telephone today? Who did you talk to? Did you talk to Miss Judy?
Tell her you talk to Miss Judy.
Let's talk.
Well, talk. Talk.
Hello. Let's turn your.
Listen, what we gonna do up on Deer Leaf?
What are you gonna do up on Deer Leaf? Don't bubble.
No, that's mine. No, I have. You can't do it.
What you gonna do with a 22? Huh?
Say, Daddy's gonna get me a 22. Say, I'm gonna get me a 22.
I'm gonna get 22.
Or what you gonna do
What
with
you
it?
gonna shoot with it?
Papa.
You gonna kill a buck deer?
What dear?
Or armadillo?
Neil.
Listen,
Or say, maybe a possum.
Let's have some.
talk about them dewberries you been feeding.
Who picks some dewberries?
How's that do?
talk to us some more. Hey, Jameis.
Tell Daddy about Little Bo Peep.
Here, talk right in here. Tell me about little Bo Peep right here.
Hey, Bobby.
Go ahead, finish it.
Hey, Bobby, what's doing?
Say, little Bo Peep lost her sheep.
Funny, come get her.
Tell me about
Baba.
Baba Black.
Baba, Baba, have you roll?
Yes, sir.
I just,
Tell me some more. Say, I dropped my dolly. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
It's right, Bubba.
Say, I dropped my dolly.
turn on truck.
I will. Just a minute. Say, I dropped my dolly.
I got my diamond on that system.
Come on, Bubba. Say something else, huh? Come on. Say something. Say, hello, everybody.
Have I
Say, come see us next time.
come this next time?
Say, we'll be home.
Maybe home,
You bet your life.
but
Say, we like company.
not coming.
Johnny had his tonsils out. Say, Johnny had his tonsils out.
Had tonsils
Say,
out.
Jameis has got sores.
And it's got tonsils out.
And Jameis has got sores.
And it's got sore.
And he scratches them.
And it's got,
All the time.
and then it's got the boo-boo.
Tell Daddy about Miss Payne.
Let's play little boy.
Yeah, Miss Payne whip boys, Daddy. Tell him again, he didn't hear you.
Let's play little boy. Turn it on truck.
What do you think about this?
Let's Papa.
He's at home in bed.
Huh?
He's at home in bed.
Let's turn it at Papa.
Where's Jameis?
Let's, huh?
Where's Jameis? Tell me something, Bubba.
Huh?
Now, don't bother that.
Say.
Oh, sir, don't touch your...
Say, Pop.
Papa.
Say, Hayas.
Have
Say, Pavliska.
Parisko.
Say, Arizona.
Amazon.
Say, Racketville.
Like to be right there.
Fredericksburg.
Where's really up here?
San Antonio.
Center right here.
Daniel Center.
Center up here.
Mississippi.
Mississippi right here.
Austin.
Austin up here.
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Waco.
Echo.
Montana.
Montana.
Colorado.
Color. They turn at Papa.
Say, Llano.
I know.
Say, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Say, where's Nanny?
It's home.
Is she baking okay?
Mm-mm.
She's not.
What do you do when you go with Nanny's?
House.
What do you do when you go with Nanny's house?
It's running from house.
Who do you see over there?
Truck.
Who do you see over at Nanny's house?
Tail.
What's that real loud? Ronnie?
Honey.
J.R.?
Duh. Johnny Ray.
Papa?
Popo.
Betty? And Betty?
A baby.
Mr. Tennis?
With tennis.
And sometimes Granny.
Granny.
Uncle Green?
Uncle Granny.
Dorothy? Dorothy?
And Darlene.
At Popo. That's
What are
at
we
Popo.
going to do when we grow up on the dairy?
That's at Popo.
Hey,
That's at Popo.
what did you tell me this thing you ain't going to do when you want me to do when come in and go fishing?
That's at Popo.
Well, we will in a minute. Talk some more.
Let's go fishing.
Say, with a nigger pole.
Let's go pole.
Do I want to catch you, Gasper?
Say, my dog's got fleas.
Now, love dog got free.
And Pig.
A tick.
said, but we love him.
love him.
The daddy's mean to him,
That's him.
though. Yeah, daddy killed him.
That he whips him and makes him mad.
That's not love him.
Like he does Bubba. Does daddy whoop Bubba?
No. At Papa. Hang on.
So you like to use cell?
That's
Say, James. James, say hippopotamus.
I'm not saying no more thing.
Say hippopotamus.
I'm saying no.
Say I'm not talking no more.
I'm not talking no more. That
Where's Mr. Graham?
it's home.
Who?
What's his name?
Mr. Gray's home.
Where's Mr. Claus?
Say, Mama, watch that copperhead.
Let's get covered.
Will he bite me?
Say, yes, ma'am.
That's me.
Say, tell Mama, say, don't
Go to the
say.
hospital.
Tell Mama, James, tell Mama, say, don't say, say, ma'am.
No,
Tell Mama that. She said,
huh.
Say, don't say, Mama, say, ma'am.
Not her ma'am.
Oh, okay, though.
Some hunters rattle from up in a tree or on a step ladder so they can see better. But I don't care for this and do not believe it is possible to get as good or as natural sounds from such makeshift position. In selecting a stand, regardless of the location of a scrape, keep in mind that a buck has to have a place in which to hide. You would be foolish to get out in the middle of a huge clearing as an example. Select a spot perhaps like the following. A small clump of rather dense trees from which you can see a ridge heavily forested, maybe 150 yards distant, with openings in between, and off to one side a low brushy swamp or brush area or stream bottom. In other words, give yourself every chance that a buck or bucks will be hiding in the general area. I personally like to get into a rather snug position to force a buck to come close. A small opening, maybe 50 yards across, ringed by brush in which one can hide, pays off in big thrills when an old brute comes crashing right out into the middle of it. Referring momentarily to weather, a still, cold day may be good all day long. If the nights are dark, so much the better for daytime buck activity. If nights have been moonlit, deer will have been active all night and will lie low for the most part during the day. At such times, the period just before dusk, the last shooting light, will be an extremely good time to rattle. This is when the big bucks will begin to move. When you select a spot, try to have it equipped with the following. One rough-barked live tree of at least 6 inches diameter. A few clumps of stiff brush such as shin oak, not cedar, which is not as noisy. A spot on the ground where there is gravel or small stone, or in the absence of those, some rock. A reachable area of dry leaves and earth. These props you will use to create various sounds, to make the rattling sequences all the more realistic. Now, let us begin. You have slipped quietly into the spot, got set in a good position, gun leaned against a handy limb. Even better is to hunt with a partner, one doing the rattling, the other the shooting. Hold the antlers apart and bring them together with a sharp crack, quite loud, followed by a loud rattle. The antlers held well out in front of you and perhaps 2 feet or more above the ground. Repeat this maneuver at 1 minute intervals several times as a starter. Smartly wrap the antlers together, drag them apart, then begin to rattle them. This procedure makes the first sharp crack a loud one, as if 2 bucks have come together with a rush. I have heard bucks fight, and you may rest assured that you will never make too much noise trying to imitate them. Listen to some rattling now. You can be sure that at the first crack of the antlers, any buck within hearing has pinpointed the spot from which the sound came. From here on, it is up to you to simulate a good fight. Visualize two bucks fighting. They clash together, slide, slam into the brush, rattle rocks, stomp and paw the ground, back off and come together again. All right, that is the kind of sequence you want to present. After the first loud crack and rattle sequence, turn both antlers with points outward and rake with one hand and then the other into the gravel, rocks, or soil around you. This simulates the sound of struggling bucks kicking and digging their feet into the ground. It follows immediately upon the heels of the crack and rattle series, like this. Then rake the horns against the rough bark of the small tree trunk and into the bushes. Make lots of noise. It should sound like this. It may be that a buck has already shown himself, running in or sneaking. If he comes running, stay immobile and don't do anything. If he stops, just tickle the antler points together very gently and quietly and close to the ground, like this. You may wish to repeat this over and over. It all depends on what the buck does. If he sticks his tail out straight behind, that means he's fooled and interested, and he may start toward you. Keep the sounds very low and gentle. Of course, if he is the one you want, by now you or your partner will have let him down. But suppose no buck has shown. Wait about 1 minute, place the tines gently together, then twist and yank them so they grate and rasp against each other. Do this for about 5 seconds. Wait about a minute, then continue with a minimum of vigor for about 3 seconds, touching the tine tips together lightly. Wait about 3 minutes, then scrape the ground several times. Wait 2 or 3 minutes, touch the tips of the tines together lightly and stop. Wait about 2 or 3 minutes, then strike the base of one antler hard against the ground twice to simulate the sound of a buck pawing the ground. If no buck appears in 5 minutes, repeat the entire sequence, not so loud and not with any resounding antler crashes. Another sound bucks make when they fight is a low, throaty grunt. A buck usually makes this sound just before butting heads with his opponent. Bob Ramsey has experimented with the use of this sound and it has worked very well for him, especially when a buck is in sight but seems a bit reluctant to move on in close. It seems to give the animal confidence. It is made by filling the lungs with air, then letting a very small amount of air escape deep in your throat. Here's how it should sound. You do not have to use this sound, but if you can make it properly, it will make you a better deer caller. Now, let's listen to the entire rattling sequence. There, you see, that's your simulated fight. You may repeat with variations if you wish, but omit the opening loud clash. Keep the volume lower. Gently play the antler tips together. Rap an antler upon the ground sharply. Tickle the antler tine several times. There are many variations. Much depends on individual bucks, the weather, the state of the rut. If nothing happens after the first big series and the second lighter one, remain silent and immobile for 5 minutes and go through it again. Sometimes I even go back to the original loud rap. Sometimes I don't. If you stay in a spot for 15 minutes, probably no buck is coming. But if this is not the peak of the rut, and you're not impatient, staying a half hour or more may bring you a prize. Recently, at the Y.O. Ranch, an experiment in long staying was tried. 7 bucks came to the antlers at the same spot over a period of 4 solid hours. This, however, is unusual. I would say, as a basic rule, to stay 15 or 20 minutes, then move. On a still, frosty morning, be sure to move at least half a mile each time. But if wind conditions are such that closer bucks may not have heard your rattling, you may want to move only 50 to 100 yards. If a buck coming in is not what you want, always watch him, remaining hidden and immobile yourself. If another is coming, the first one will give it away by cocking its ears or pointing its nose in that direction. In my area of Texas, we get used to rattling up bucks easily because they are so abundant. They are not so abundant everywhere, and you must control your impatience and not expect a stunning result in many other places. However, if you will pursue the instructions given here and practice and add to the practice your own experience year by year, I'm sure you will have the most exciting deer hunting you have ever had.
James.
You just sort of tell by its flashing whenever it does start talking.
And James.
You got it loud enough.
And James.
Flicker. You got volume.
And James.
Okay, what we're going to talk about.
I don't know. I see.
You have to put your mouth right on it. Okay, now talk. Okay. Tell Mr. McCullough what that lady told you in the bank this morning, or why she gave you that gum in the bank this morning.
Wait, look.
Tell her.
I'm James.
Tell her. I asked him this morning, I said, James, I said, why that lady give you that gum this morning? He just talked about a smile on her face. That's pretty good. But you're not going to talk, you're just holding it.
I'm James. James Fort Brooks.
Where you live?
At Dayton.
Kansas? Where? Texas?
Dayton, Texas.
Can you tell Ray the name of that place we saw yesterday? Mama said it, and you said that they're winter snakes. Can you say that? Say it in this one. And we'll play it back.
Where is this?
What are you talking
Microphone. Microphone.
Well, hold it good now, that's right.
You have to squeeze it.
No, you don't have to squeeze nothing.
I'm James. Don't know. Let's play it back.
Will
talk to Mom, and I talk to her.
Oh, you are the big crybaby. Can
Ma.
you say anything?
No, not the
What?
bed, not the bed, no.
Mama didn't say you couldn't talk. What that lady this morning at the bank, when she gave you that gun, what did you tell me that she gave you that gun for?
Cause I was a sweet boy,
And you were doing what? You had what on your face?
a sweet smile.
A sweet smile.
They let me hold it.
Okay. Well, you don't have to put your mouth right up on it. Just hold it back. You can kind of look at it there and talk into it. What else you got to say?
I don't know, but I can say it.
Okay. You don't know, but you can say it. What do you want to say?
Let's see now. Me, Mom, and them bought me that little pickup, and I play with it. So, let's see now. The deer was going into the woods, and how's your day doing? He's doing fine. And I can do some,
Let's say that they're winter schnitzel.
the winter schnitzel. I used to sing that when I was a little baby.
Yeah, you did.
I used to say, winter schnitzel. That's a winter
Are you
schnitzel.
no rattlesnake coming?
Yeah.
Tell me, what kind of work was you going to do yesterday? What was you going to be when you got big?
I was going to use Charlie Lesson's grader and build you a ditch with the Charlie Lesson's road grader.
You're going to be a farmer.
Yep, I'm going to be a farmer and truck driver and
Oil man.
oh man,
Cattle man.
cow man, and I'm going to be a cow man and
Horseman.
horseman and a cowboy.
Why don't you say the 23rd Psalms on that thing? And we say it on that and we'll play it back later, okay?
Okay, let's see now.
Okay.
You start me off.
Okay. The Lord is my shepherd.
I shall not want. He maketh me where the green patches his doth my soul.
Leadeth me beside
Still waters.
yea,
Though I walk through the valley of the shadow, I fear no ill, thou art with me. The rod of the staff they comfort.
thou knowest
My hair will my cup runs over, sure grace and mercy flow. All the days of my life, and I love of the house of the Lord
forever.
forever.
Okay, let's play it back. Okay, it's your start talking.
Let's say, you start me off now. I don't know, let's see. Onions, small onions, beans,
Grains,
greens and beans,
tomatoes,
tomatoes and potatoes. And let's see now. You talk like,
What are you going to do when Jim Brown gets over here with his You going to play with that?
you and the kids. Yes.
You have to hold your mouth right up. Just hold it away, son. Just hold it right like that. There you go. You don't have to hold it right up.
Hi, I'm James. I want to see Papa right tonight.
Say, said my name is James.
Yeah, James Greenberg. Then now you start talking like a baby.
Oh, like a what?
Like me like I was a baby. When I was a baby. Yeah, okay. You speak through it.
Oh.
Speak through it a minute, ma'am. Speak through it. It's your time now.
Oh, it's your turn.
Well, it's about there, and when it's dinner season, you're supposed to go back north and hunt. And kill deer, and say, go your color fish.
James, don't do that.
Well, we won't kill deer, women won't too, and we like to, let's say the tree turn
Oh,
stones.
you done said that. I ain't saying.
Well, ma'am,
Say your prayers that you say when, or say grace. You say grace.
no.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you for what for Jesus' name and our new icebox and everything else.
I've got a new icebox.
I mean, a new deep freeze and a new house. Amen. I played the river so the keep. Flow right. So the keep. But let's see, let's start the day now. Yeah, I'm 3 years old. And I'm not supposed to be here. I always run home at the side our house. Mom and Dad gives me weapons while I'm mean. Yep. Now let's start the deer now. Turn the deer on.
As much as it has helped me during the past few deer seasons. Our deer, both white-tailed and mule deer, have learned to live with our bustling civilization, and they thrive nowadays very close to numerous large centers of population. Fortunately, this puts deer hunting within easy reach of anyone and everyone. It's an exciting, dramatic sport, and the end result for the successful hunter is also a substantial addition to the deep freeze. Since the pioneer times of our ancestors, the art of deer hunting has changed very little. Traditional approaches to deer hunting are the stalk, the stand, the drive. It is indeed satisfying for a hunter to make a quiet, expert stalk that puts him within shooting distance of his buck. It's also thrilling to the stand enthusiast to be sitting, hidden in a place of good observation, and suddenly see a big buck stalk into view, totally unaware. To some over the years, the deer drive has also had its drama. But nowadays, with many hunters afield each fall, the drive, in which a number of sportsmen participate, has become a rather dangerous undertaking. This recording, however, will tell you step by step about a new approach to deer hunting that has nothing whatever to do with stalking or driving. And though it does require that you select various stands and stay there for short periods, you certainly do not remain quiet, as you will see. Nor do you wait for a deer just to happen along. With this unique and most dramatic of all deer hunting methods, you call the buck to you. This method is commonly called, among the relatively few who are practicing it today and have practiced it over the years, rattling up a buck. It's done by the rattling of deer antlers and making other noises to simulate a buck fight. Bucks that hear these sounds come either to mix in the fight or to sneak away with the doe they presume the two bucks to be fighting over. To put it at its simplest, that's what it is all about. However, there is a great deal of lore surrounding the art of antler rattling, which we'll cover step by step. The hunter who will study and carefully observe all the rules will have the most astonishing deer hunting experiences of his life. He'll almost certainly be successful season after season if he can manage to hunt while the rut is in progress. He should in fact form all his hunting plans around that specific period. Perhaps you're already an animal caller. Perhaps you've had experience with blowing predator calls or crow calls, or using recorded sounds played and broadcast through a speaker. If so, you know well the thrills of seeing creatures come to you as you call. Although I said earlier that deer hunting methods have changed little over the years, it is true that during the past few years we have had much experimentation by manufacturers and by hunters in the field with mouth-blown deer calls and with various scents. The mouth-blown calls, most of them, are an attempt to imitate the plaintive distress cries of a fawn. In summer, they readily get attention from does. In hunting season, they sometimes work, and they frequently do not. At best, this calling method is only erratically successful. But worse yet, it's also illegal in a good many states and may become so in other states. Rattling, the most effective buck calling method, is not now illegal. The various scents now used by deer hunters are of two basic varieties. The most common approach is to use a scent that masks human odor. In other words, by its use the hunter covers up his own human scent so that deer nearby do not know he's there. Some scents allegedly attract deer. Later on, we will explain about the use of scents in combination with rattling. Suffice to say for now that the method of antler rattling has without question the strongest appeal to the deer, the bucks, because this is a direct appeal to the breeding instinct, the sex urge. At that season when the bucks are, as most hunters say, running does. Because this is the most overwhelming appeal of all, they can become so confused that they sometimes pay little attention even if they see or smell the hunter. Many times where deer are plentiful during the height of the rut, as many as 4 or 5 bucks will come running to the sound all at once from different directions. Sometimes a big buck will come within a few feet of your position. At times you will be disturbed for fear a big fella, hackles up and eyes wild, may rush right into your hiding place and hook you. It is not at all uncommon, in places where deer are especially abundant, to rattle up a dozen bucks a day. Bob Ramsey, a well-known rancher in the hill country of Texas, rattled up 87 bucks during the 1964 hunting season and rattled up 38 bucks in one day. Outdoor writer Byron Dalrymple and his partner Eb Warren produced a motion picture film about this sport, and in only 1 week of filming, rattled up 57 bucks. Rattling is, in fact, just as much sport for non-hunters as for hunters. You don't have to be interested only in shooting a deer. Just as in predator calling, this is a wonderful approach to wildlife photography. It is without question the best way ever to get good close-up photographs of big bucks. It's also plain fun whether one shoots a rifle, a camera, or just watches with his family or friends as the bucks come running. It's a trick with which to utterly astonish one's outdoor-minded friends. And let me emphasize, this is the way to get the big bucks. You hear it said that little bucks are easy enough to kill, but the big, wise old fellas stay in hiding. Not when the rut is on and an expert antler rattler gets after them. Indeed not. The bigger they are, often the faster they come on the run. Let's go back to look at a bit of the history and origin of this sport. Undoubtedly, the idea of rattling antlers together to call bucks was originated by Indians, probably Indians of the Southwest. As far as can be determined, the first use of the method by white men cropped up in South Texas many years ago. It is doubtful if more than a few hunters outside of the dense thorn brush areas of South Texas had even so much as heard of the method until a few years ago. The first articles about rattling up a buck appeared about 15 years ago. Almost no one who read these really believed them. Everyone considered it some kind of hoax. But it was no hoax. The reason for rattling antlers in the so-called Texas brush country was the region is a mass of low cactus and old thorn brush of numerous varieties. It contains exceedingly large white-tailed deer, but they are most difficult to hunt there simply because it's almost impossible to see deer in cover that runs for many miles over the rolling landscape. Old-timers, few of them even aware of where the idea had found its way to them in the first place, began trying to rattle up a buck. It worked very well. It brought the deer into sight for the hunter, and soon rattling was the common method of whitetail hunting in the brush country of southern Texas along the Mexican border. It was said that the method would not work anywhere else. Many hunters believed that. Many still do today. The reason hunters thought this was that here and there one gave rattling a try and was unsuccessful. It may have been that the hunter was not within hearing of a buck. It may also have been that the rut was over or had not yet begun. In addition, most who tried the experiment did not really know how because they had never seen it done and they did not really have faith in it nor believe that it would actually produce. About 10 years ago, hunters in the Texas Hill Country, which is some 100 to 200 miles north of the border brush country, were saying rattling would not work there. And that was unfortunate, because the hill country sustains one of the greatest white-tailed deer populations in the world. These are small to medium-sized whitetails. There are thousands of them. However, a few persons, among them the aforementioned Bob Ramsey, knew very well that rattling was just as effective here as in South Texas. He'd been studying and experimenting a long time and was rattling up bucks by the score. Then the famed Y.O. Ranch, known nationally for its deer hunting on a fee basis, took up the antler rattling idea. Its owner, Charlie Schreiner, made a hobby of rattling up big bucks, and he taught his guides to do likewise. Today, approximately 1/4 of the bucks killed annually on the sprawling Y.O., the hunters who come there from all over the United States, are rattled up by the guide or their climb. The rattling art has slowly spread northward, and it has now been tried successfully in several other states. It is now well known that if you will carefully follow instructions, you can bring bucks to you by this method anywhere. Rattling will, I predict, be the hottest deer hunting method all over the United States within a few years. Now then, as I have said, in this unique deer hunting endeavor, everything depends upon the season of the rut. I would be very dishonest to tell you that rattling will work any old time. It will not. Buck deer do not fight to any extent except during the breeding season, but at that time they fight much more often than most hunters suppose. You might go for a lifetime and never witness a buck fight. As you know, it is common to find bucks with antlers interlocked. And if you will watch, you will often discover places in the woods where bucks have torn up the ground and the brush during a battle. At first thought, it may seem to you that the rattling method is thus greatly restricted. That is, that the time of year during which it will work well is brief. This is not necessarily the case. For example, during a recent season in my home state of Texas, Bob Ramsey, whom I mentioned, was able to rattle up a buck as early as September. The season was not open. He was simply experimenting. The peak of the rut that season occurred along through late November and early December. Bucks have been observed in South Texas in late January, determinedly running does. Thus, for purposes of illustration, it might have been possible that season in certain areas in Texas to have rattled up a buck probably at any time over nearly a 5-month period. Most deer hunters are well aware that when the rut is in full swing, the bucks lose caution in their ardent pursuit of the does. Most deer hunters are eager to be able to hunt when the rut is on for this reason. The bucks are on the move constantly, seeking does, and when they find a willing doe, they are on the move again, chasing her. Bob Ramsey once observed the doe being followed by 11 legal bucks, trotting single file, mouths open and eyes straight ahead. Needless to say, when bucks are in that mental state, they are easier to hunt than at any other time. A popular belief among hunters is that the rut lasts only a week or so. That is not true. The peak, when all or most of the does are in heat and most of the bucks eagerly chasing them, usually does occur during a period of a couple of weeks. But much, as we will see, depends on weather. Even though the peak is over or has not yet begun when you're hunting, you still may be able to rattle within hearing of a buck that doesn't know the rut is over. In such instances, early and late in the fall, you will undoubtedly have to keep at the rattling more diligently, make more stands, and rattle longer at each stand to get results. You can easily find out from personnel in your state game department the general time of the rut in your area. Surprisingly, it does not differ drastically from latitude to latitude. Usually, the months of November and December, almost anywhere in the United States, will be the best one. The peak of the rut is fairly certain to fall within those 2 months. Fortunately, most deer hunting seasons come during these months too. If you have only a 1-week or a 2-week deer season, you may miss the very hottest time, but there is just as good a chance that you may hit it perfectly, if not this year, then next. Even though you miss the peak, do not be discouraged. It is reasonably certain that at least some bucks will be interested either avidly or to a lesser degree any time during October, November, and December. Weather holds the key. Physiological changes that take place within both buck and doe are triggered by season and by specific weather conditions. A buck's neck swells, for example, because of a hormone secretion. This is an indication of his readiness for the rut. But the secretion is set up by a weather change, by lowered temperature, which also has a decided physiological effect upon his sex urge. However, the amount of temperature change necessary is a matter of widely varying degree at various latitudes. In northern Wisconsin, for example, the first severe frost may trigger the mating urge. In the Mexican border area, bucks have started rutting wildly when after a few days of hot weather, a mild norther blew in during the night, dropping the temperature only 10 or 15 degrees. In addition, over the period of the rut, fluctuations in temperature and variations in weather will temporarily increase or decrease breeding activity among deer. On a crisp, still morning, the best possible conditions for rattling, bucks may be just going wild from dawn until, let's say, 9 a.m. From then on, the day becomes warm, and perhaps not a buck will move or pay any attention to rattle antlers. By late afternoon, however, they are all off and running once more. I do not mean that one should cease operations during the middle of the day. because there is always the chance that a buck may get up out of his bed and come to the sound. A good rule of thumb is to rattle from first light until mid-morning, and again from mid-afternoon until last light. The major share of favorable results will be had during those times. Where you do your rattling is extremely important, but really not difficult to decide. The first thing to do is to search your hunting area carefully, not just for deer sign, but for buck sign. Look first for rub. A rub is a place on a sapling where the bark has been rubbed off by a deer polishing its antlers. Many poorly informed hunters confuse the terminology of a rub and a scrape. A scrape is something quite different, which we will discuss shortly. Commonly, a rub sapling will be found in a secluded little woods opening. It may be any kind of sapling. Small balsams or pines are selected by bucks as rubbing sites in some areas. The buck begins rubbing to get the velvet off his antlers after they have hardened. The velvet at this period, in late summer and early fall, hangs in tatters. An undisturbed buck commonly eats the shreds of velvet, dead skin, as it is rubbed off and falls to the ground. The reason the rub is very important is that it signifies that a buck lives somewhere in this vicinity. At the very moment you are looking at a fresh rub, the buck is probably not a half-mile distant. This is his domain. He may rub on several saplings in a general area. Do not look for rubs on large trees. Bucks invariably select small ones of from 3/4 of an inch to 2 inches in diameter. As the velvet disappears and the season progresses, rubbing soon comes to mean, to the buck, something quite different. He now polishes his cleaned antlers, and he begins to fight his rubbing bush or sapling. Many times the buck will play at fighting a whole bush, boring in and hooking, breaking small limbs. This is a kind of tune-up for later on. It is the first indication that the breeding season is drawing near. Because bucks continue polishing their antlers and playing at fighting, as well as trying the real thing throughout the rut, a search of your hunting terrain until you have spotted the various rub and fighting bushes or low branches that have been hooked will set you up a virtual map of buck activities. All of this foregoing activity is only a manifestation of the buildup of the buck's sex drive. When the breeding season actually begins, scrapes will appear. Have you ever watched a bull paw the ground and hook turf with his horns? The scrape of a buck deer is much the same. It is made as he paws with the hooves of his front feet. The rubs you find will tell you one or more bucks are in your area. But when you find a scrape, you can be really elated, because this will tell you, without any question, that the buck that made it is in rut. Rubs by no means indicate the advancement of the season, but the scrape is a manifestation of the breeding season. It's made only during this period, and once you find a fresh scrape, it's virtually certain that with the proper technique, you will be able to rattle up the buck that made it. Because the buck scrape plays a most important part in the breeding ritual, certain fairly well-established rules can be set up for locating these pawed-out places in bare ground. Almost without fail, a scrape will be located along the fringe of a clearing, and above it there will be at least one or more overhanging branches. Such branches will be at a height reachable by the buck with its nose. If you were to observe a buck at a scrape, you'd see him paw away, then reach up and nip at the leaves or twigs on the overhanging branch. Once this buck has made a scrape, you can be absolutely certain he will return to it, usually many times. He'll paw the ground and nip off a leaf or a few leaves. After several visits, even the twigs will have been chewed from the overhanging branch. He's leaving his sign here. Staking out his breeding bailiwick. His stakeout will be formed by several scrapes scattered over his living area. As the rut comes full upon the buck, he will urinate in the scrapes he has made, at the same time urinating upon his hock and rubbing them together. Before he leaves, he'll again chew on the twig. Does in heat will urinate in buck scrape. Often one may be observed coming so straight to a scrape that it is certain she knew its location. She will urinate in the scrape, rub her hocks together, and leave. Quite often a buck is following her and will soon appear at the scrape, smell the scrape, paw the wet dirt out, go through the urination and hock rubbing routine, and run off following the doe. It is imperative that you understand this breeding season routine in order to understand best how to rattle up a trophy buck. Begin now to get our rattling antlers ready. Some old hands make a great fuss over getting just the right set of antlers with the proper tones. This is mostly nonsense. I have heard it said whitetails will not come to rattled mule deer antlers. This is utter nonsense. A friend of mine used mule deer antlers for whitetails all one season out of curiosity, and they worked fine. It is imperative, however, to select a set of antlers neither too large nor too small so they can be comfortably handled. A good, better than average set of 8 or 10-point whitetail antlers from a buck in good condition will make an excellent pair of rattling horns. Saw each antler from the skull, either just above the base burr or just below. If you saw above the burr, then you can drill a small hole through the base of each antler and run opposite ends of a thong through each separate antler, so they can be slung over your shoulder to carry them. If you leave the burr on, a thong can be tied snugly just above the burr for the same purpose. Before you secure the pair of antlers thus, first cut off the brow tines and with a rough file smooth down the edges of the cuts. Brow tines strike your hands and fingers, which can be very painful. Smooth off the antler bases too, so no horny nodules or burrs are there to chafe or blister your hands. You want to have as smooth a grip as possible so you can grasp each antler firmly and comfortably. The pair you've selected should be symmetrical. You should not leave them out in the weather to dry out or rot. Once a year, soak them briefly in linseed oil. A good set will last a lifetime. Since deer antlers differ a good deal, you may find as you go along that your set can be handled better in one manner than in another. For example, most expert rattlers like to hold the left antler in the right hand and vice versa, as if the deer were facing them. Then the antler in the left hand is turned so the tip of the main beam points directly away from the holder, with the tines pointing upward. The antler in the right hand is clasped against the left and rattled as the tines mesh together by rotating both wrists inward and outward. It is important that you be able to clash and rattle the antlers without striking your fingers, so use them in the most comfortable and the most effective position. You may wish to saw off a tine or part of one, so the pair fits with a good clash as you bring them smartly together. Some hunters also saw the sharp tips from each point, but you can leave the points and let them wear down, for they are useful, as we'll see, for scraping gravel and rock. I mentioned selecting a set of antlers from a buck in good condition. Old bucks and bucks in poor health may have white-appearing antlers. These do not have the resonance of good brown-hued antlers. Because bucks with all styles and varieties of antlers fight, the precise sound is not tremendously important. Bucks have actually been rattled up by hunters tapping a stick or a knife handle against a gun stock. However, a resonant set of antlers gives a sound that carries well and that undeniably sounds precisely like the real thing. In a moment, I'll show you the kind of sound a good set of rattling antlers should have. And incidentally, As you hold your first set and begin to practice a little, bring them together and rattle them so they make in general the following sequence. It does not need to be an exact copy, just similar. All right, now let us go back briefly to the study of the deer again. If you have ever watched a buck run a doe, you'll note that he will usually keep trying to head her off, turn her. He has laid out the limits of his domain by the scrapes he has made. He has patrolled his bailiwick waiting for a doe in heat to cross it. Now he is trying to keep her within his domain. This is an instinctive thing. He does not want her to get outside his marked off limits because he knows by instinct that other bucks will be after her. If she runs, however, and he fails to get her stopped, he will follow even into the domain of another buck. That is why the rattling works so well. Fights do not always result. Many times several bucks will be after the same doe, so intent upon her they do not fight among themselves. But the small bucks hang back or sneak around because they are afraid of the larger ones. And any untoward
and kill there and say, got your color fish.
James, don't do that.
Well, we will kill there, women want to, and we like to, let's say the 3 songs.
Son said there ain't sin.
Well, ma'am,
Say your prayers that you say when, or say grace. You say grace.
no,
Thank you, Lord.
thank you for what we, for Jesus' name and our new icebox and everything else.
I've got a new ice box.
I mean, a new deep freeze and a new house, amen.
One of the main reasons the rattling of antlers is so effective is that it draws other bucks, not necessarily to get into the apparent fight, but because they are sure one buck is trying to fight off the amorous advances of another toward his doe. The buck coming to antlers comes 9 times out of 10 for the purpose of running off with the doe he assumes must be standing by. Because of these varying attitudes of bucks coming to rattle antlers, you must be watching for a variety of movements. One buck may come on a dead run and slide to a noisily only a few feet away. Another may come in fast, but sneaking without a sound. Still another may stand hidden stock still in the brush for many minutes, only to come out at last into a position where he may be collected. A spike or fork horn may run in with foolish abandon and remain for a long period of time. Watch the first buck to appear on the scene. If he stays a bit at a distance and keeps looking over his shoulder or in any particular direction, you can be sure another buck is there somewhere. Many a big buck will take its own sweet time coming to the sound. It may even be exceedingly wary, or it may have been with a doe and not avidly interested. Sometimes the buck will walk a few steps at a time along a brushy ridge, work down it, and finally close the distance to easy shooting range, the whole sequence requiring a full half hour of intermittent rattling. In country that is heavily populated with deer, when the rut is in full swing, it pays to be ready during the first few seconds of rattling. Sometimes the buck is right there instantly, but it also pays not to give up too quickly. That sneaking buck you may not have spotted will plunge away as you get up to move. So now we are ready to go on a hunt. If you've located buck scrapes, taking a stand near one will not be amiss. The ideal morning is a steady rattling sound can be heard a long way on such a morning, and the scent from your stand does not spread. but you can't always select such a day. If there is any breeze movement at all, sit so you're watching the 180-degree arc downwind. A buck may come from upwind, but it will almost always circle. Camouflage clothing and a head net will be good hideout insurance. They are not, however, exactly mandatory, especially if you choose a shady spot from which to rattle. Bucks in rut are not as spooky as at other times. Sneak into the area where you intend to start rattling, moving, if there is a breeze, so you do not ruin your hunting as you walk. If you flush a buck or two on the way to your stand, then wait a little while before you...